Hi everyone, it's Dave again. In this part we're going to be actually installing the new spring kit. And at the end of the last video I mentioned having a small adjustable wrench, and that's for tightening these nuts here and making sure that they're good and firm. So I'm going to do that now in all three places here. This one actually over here by out of your camera view was actually a little bit loose, so I'm being sure to tighten that good and firm that up. I also grabbed a pair of tweezers and I used that to get these pieces of foam out of the original spring. So those are able to be reused again. So our grommets are clean and cleaned with warm soapy water. I would avoid using chemicals that could deteriorate the rubber, but we're going to be reusing these, and I'm going to focus on these two springs here that are in the view on your camera, and these just simply need to be seated back in the hole where they were. Sometimes that's easy like the first one was, and sometimes it's not so easy like this one. But definitely you want it to be seated flat. There we go. And the third one out of view here. Okay, so one of the trickier, well, I'm going to put these pieces of foam on too before we forget. One, two. Some of you may have had the foam removed by a previous owner. You know, it's not a giant deal not to have the foam present. It's, you know, obviously adds to the resonance control to be able to do that, but it's not a deal breaker. Take your 3M scrub pad or your wire brush and just clean off any paint that's potentially going to keep the new nut from threading well. So that's done, and one of the trickier parts is just figuring out the direction of your spring. So let me see if I can get this explained well. I guess I should do it all the way over here. So every spring has, I guess, what would be called a weak side. And the way I do that is to put the spring between my thumb and forefinger, and I just kind of squeeze the spring, and I can feel that there's a firm side and then there's a side that's more loosey-goosey. And on this one I can feel that weak side, or the loosey-goosey side, is right here. It's just bending easier than that back section. And I use that side that's got the bend to it, and I face it towards this beginning, towards the bearing well here for the platter. All three I try to point in that direction. Takes a little bit of a feel to it, but I think it is pretty apparent which side is the weaker side once you feel it. So this one's this way, putting that in place, and then the final one is right here. So that's seated on the lower grommet, the foam is there, and now we're going to start actually installing the first spring. So we've got this upper grommet, goes on first, then you've got a metal washer, then a plastic washer, then a metal washer, and then finally the lock nut, threaded lock nut. And just get that started, and then grommet, metal washer, plastic washer, metal washer, and the thread nut. And just for the sake of time, I'm not going to show the third one right now, but obviously you're going to do this for the third spring. But basically that's the spring installation, folks. You know, getting it on there. You're going to use your socket wrench to tighten that when we go to adjust the suspension in the next one. I'm just putting it on a couple extra threads here. But that's the installation of the springs, and we'll come back and